The New York Post is reporting that Donald Trump is backing Bernie Sanders in the U.S. Senate. That is, to the best of my understanding, the sixth seal in the book of Revelations as it opens. The seventh is that In Time has started on time on YouTube today. Thank you for joining us. We start, I guess, on a light note as I say that. That Post article is in fact true, as is the other one. The fact that either of them is in fact a seal of the Book of Revelations is up for debate. I will say I had forgotten that this was by some the end. Well, it's the end of the Mayan calendar. It isn't really. It's the rolling over of it's the zero. It's the rolling over of the Mayan calendar. It was never the end of the Mayan calendar. But I had forgotten that there was that scare. 2000 is the end of all time on the Mayan calendar, and here we are at just about the end of 2020. And oh dear Lord, it's been 2020. Vox, you are with us. How are you?
I am doing well. Unfortunately, my camera is malfunctioning, so I can't see my pretty face. But you can look at the pretty picture, and it's got a pretty tree, right? I love that. It's really nice. Distractions, right? I'm good. I am beginning my celebrations. I have a nice glass of wine in front of me. I usually only drink one glass of wine a day, but I think I'm going to allow myself 3 or 4 tonight as this year winds down. So it's fantastic. Family is good. The world is not burning completely at the moment. It's kind of just smoldering. There are some bits of good news popping up in different places. So, all in all, not the way I would want to necessarily ring out the new year, but, there's enough good news to kind of say, all right, well, we're starting with some good promises,
Indeed. All right, and with that, let's do our rundown here of sort of the week in review. And for anyone who wants to join, we collate all of our news on the Discord, and I'm very appreciative of the people who sort of help us with that. And there's a very interesting discussion on really what's going on right now with Bernie Sanders and the COVID relief that's being discussed in the U.S. Senate right now, and it's happening both in the news section and in the politics section in our Discord. Somebody will be dropping a link to that in a bit. Our head mod is out right now, but he will be in shortly, I'm sure. So let's see. Right now, yet another vaccine, a third vaccine, which has already been approved in the UK, is expected to be approved this week in the US. It is the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. It is also expected to be effective not only against COVID, but the new highly transmissible South African strain of COVID. It is purportedly at least as effective, if not even more effective, than the previous vaccines, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines. Florida Congresswoman-elect Maria Elvira Salazar will be unable to attend her own swearing into Congress at the U.S. Capitol as she has tested positive for COVID-19. Congressman-elect Luke Letlow of Louisiana's 5th Congressional District has died of COVID-19. He lived long enough, had he lived long enough to be sworn in January, he would have been the first U.S. congressman to die of COVID. However, he did not live long enough to take in his seat, and there will be a special election to fill it. Violating local social distancing ordinances in New York, and now facing multiple state fines, the Whitestone Republican Club in New York held a party to highlight the, quote, overreaction of the media and the liberal elites of the dangers of COVID. Video has surfaced of a Congo line of people without masks and not practicing any social distancing, obviously. I think a Congo line goes without saying. And in an Italian restaurant in New York City, 2 days later, James Trent, the chair of the club, began experiencing symptoms of COVID-19, and he later tested positive and would be hospitalized. He later expressed surprise because he said that, quote, wasn't doing anything risky. And at least one couple who attended the event have now tested positive. Governor Cuomo has been quoted as saying that the behavior was, quote, not smart. California hospitals have now begun facing a large number of very pressing issues. One of them, a number aside from just being overwhelmed for any number, they're now facing some significant infrastructure issues. One of the ones that has occurred, the oxygen delivery systems have been suffering problems because they're becoming overwhelmed with how many patients require oxygen. The systems have not been designed to maintain that amount of pressure, the high oxygen flow through the pipes. This has caused the temperature in the piping to fall, sometimes to levels below freezing, causing the pipes to freeze up. This and other technical issues have led to declarations of internal disaster in at least 5 Los Angeles County hospitals. So now, in addition to insufficient resources, insufficient beds, insufficient ventilators, insufficient staff, nurses, doctors, and EMTs becoming infected at higher rates than the regular population because, of course, they are receiving higher exposure at higher levels because of the close proximity for prolonged periods of time than the regular population. What you are having now is hospital systems, which were obviously already overwhelmed, are just, it is, especially in California and in the Los Angeles County, basically at a near state of collapse. The infrastructure problems aside, there's simply no room for patients now, even if they were, if the hospitals were functioning at optimal levels and if everything else were operating normally, they don't have the capacity. There wasn't even a single bed available for at least 30 patients who needed either intensive or intermediate levels of care at the Los Angeles County Medical Center, and it had to shut its doors to all ambulance traffic on Sunday for at least 4 hours. Let's see, the ambulance wait times ended up going at as long as 18 hours on Sunday, and the Memorial Hospital of Gardena was at 140% capacity on Monday, with a 4-hour shutdown on intakes and refusing any new patients. They were placing patients in hallways, gift shops, and conference rooms, having run out of room. And keep in mind, by the way, in theory, if possible, they have to maintain social distancing guidelines. I mean, I keep this in mind, and I mentioned earlier, and I don't normally discuss it. I'd been in the hospital not too long ago for a brief period of time. And one thing that had happened when I went into the hospital, I had a 16-hour wait time. It was I was in a great deal of pain, but it was not a crisis situation. I was not in jeopardy of any kind. And the first thing that crossed my mind was I was a little ticked off because I was waiting so long and I couldn't figure out. The hospital wasn't busy, and I couldn't figure out why it was. And it didn't cross my mind until about hour 12 that there were 2 waiting rooms. The waiting room I was in was for people who had no signs of COVID. And there was another waiting room that looked very, very different than the one I was in. And I was social distanced and so on and so forth, but there was actually several different triage levels. And the one I was in was very different than and by the time I did get back, I passed actually several different ER rooms, and the whole hospital was a catastrophe. It just didn't look like that from where I was. And our medical system is in crisis everywhere in this country, and it's very hard to see that unless you go into it. And even if you go into it, it doesn't necessarily look that way. And I saw several people yelling at nurses and getting upset, and they were also saying, you guys aren't busy. And it wasn't until one of the nurses talked to one of those people who lost their minds, like, you haven't seen anything. And I was socially distanced where I was required to sit in, and there was plenty of space. I was like, there's other spaces. That's because I only saw one of several different waiting areas based on. And by the time I got to the back, I saw several areas and they just given up on social distancing in a couple areas. If a guy gets stabbed with a knife and he has to go through, they still have to try to keep him socially distanced from other people who have COVID because he doesn't need any more problems. But on the flip side, they're trying to save as many lives as possible. This is a triage situation. They're trying to save as many lives as possible. There's only so much room. They've got real fucking problems over there. So, yeah. So, at any rate, and I think Vox has better numbers on this than I do, but for over a week now, we've had roughly 9/11 numbers worth of COVID deaths every single day in the United States. That's 9/11 every day in the U.S. for over a week. Now, on 9/11, we got so traumatized over 9/11 that we created the single largest bureaucracy in human history, in the entire history of the human race. This country created the largest single bureaucracy, the most expensive bureaucracy, as a response to 9/11. We curtailed freedoms. We created the Patriot Act. We said we'll have to give up a number of freedoms for our safety. And there were people who questioned this. Most often, actually, it was the liberals. It was the conservatives, the freedom-loving conservatives who said, who are now saying America and who said we will have to sacrifice some freedoms for our safety. Who were talking about the Patriot Act and saying, too, that postmen would be able to look into our windows a little bit and to see if there's anything suspicious. I mean, this was the argument that was used on parts of the Patriot Act that, to be fair, were eventually removed. But, and would have to give over extra powers to the president and we'll have to torture people, and it was okay that we were raping boys in Abu Ghraib, and it was certainly okay that we didn't tell anybody about it because that empowered our enemies and all this. I mean, just really pretty heinous fucking stuff. Because this was extreme rendition, all of it. Because this is the price for our safety and to save American lives. Now, those same people are telling people that they have to put a piece of cloth over their face is too high a price to pay to stop 9/11 from happening every single day. That is the argument. Please, someone tell me I am either exaggerating, making this up, or I am misunderstanding something. If I am very happy to have it explained to me. I'm open-minded. I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I'm willing to understand. I'd like to understand. Somebody explain where I have misunderstood this, but that is what it looks like to me. Somebody explain how I'm wrong. That sounds borderline unhinged. How am I wrong? Moving on. Because of freedom, we can't put cloth over our face, but we can rape boys in Abu Ghraib. What was it? I think the youngest was a 8-year-old boy, I think, was raped in Abu Ghraib. Don't quote me. I know at least a 12-year-old was. Texas senator has said that he will contest the certification of the U.S. election for Biden. At present, it is believed that him contesting it can only slow down the certification process. It cannot overturn it. However, Republicans have now filed a suit to expand the powers of the Vice President of the United States to allow Vice President Pence to overturn the results of the U.S. election based on the objections of a senator, thus allowing the election to be overturned if a senator objects and Pence agrees to the objection. In a brief file today by Mike Pence, Pence has argued to the U.S. District Judge Jeremy Kernodle, yes, that is correct, that a Trump appointee, that Pence himself has argued that Kernodle should deny the suit and that Pence should not be given the power, the expanded powers, to overturn the election. He has argued that his role is statutory and ceremonial, and that he does not have the ability to overturn or challenge the norms of the electoral process. This is an argument, by the way, and This is an argument I have been making from the beginning, which is that while I detest Pence's politics, and I am much closer, actually, to in terms of ideology, to Trump. I find Trump is unhinged. Pence is not. And I find this argument, at least, to be somewhat in support of the argument that I've made, and I am relieved that Pence himself is arguing for sanity here. I don't know what's going to happen, but this is where we stand. Right now, the Republican Party is arguing to give Pence the power to overturn the election. At a minimum, if he is given that power, this appears to telegraph that he will not use it. At a minimum, Pence has now filed before that judge that he not be given the power to overturn it. Trump is strongly arguing that Pence should be given the power. I suspect this is making for tense meetings at the White House between Pence and Trump. Nonetheless, that brief was filed earlier today, and we are going to keep an eye on it. Brexit was made official several hours ago. The UK is now officially, completely out of the European Union. Not sure what the final effects of that will be, if it's going to be something completely unpredictable or whatever. We're going to keep an eye on that too, and if there's anything that we think you should be made aware of, we will let you know. That will also be covered, I'm sure, on our Discord. Our Discord, which we'll drop a link to, and some of our links are out of date. We're sorry. We did update them recently. We did a purge every now and then. And if you've been purged by accident, we do apologize. We don't ban people from our Discord unless you violated our policies. We also have, if, there's an appeals process. We do apologize if there's been any mistakes made. And we purge people. And all that really means is if you haven't been active, you just get kicked off. It's not a ban. You get kicked. You can always come back. It's just we like to keep things clean. We don't like to have like 1,000 people there who aren't participating. If you're participating, you don't get kicked. So if you haven't participated for 6 months, we just clean things up. Everybody can come on back. Come on back. If you haven't tried it out, come on. We have lots of active channels for people to chat. Come down, check it out. But right now there is an interesting discussion going on, in particular about that seventh seal thing. So Trump has now endorsed Bernie Sanders. Wow. Okay, so there was a veto, there was an override. It's crazy. It's cray. They're kicking it on our Discord. So I guess Trump is really serious about every American should get $2,000. I'd rather a UBI, but okay. I don't think Trump really cares either way. I think he's just trying to get people to like him. Nonetheless, he wants every American to get $2,000. Okay. Mitch McConnell has said that's a non-starter. He wants $600. Now, Bernie Sanders has said, nope, it's $2,000, and he's going to stick by it. So he has said he is going to attempt to force the U.S. Senate to do the full 2,000. I think it's 7. Vox will correct me, and Vox and I'll talk. Vox is going to cover it, and Vox is going to correct my ass because I'm always making fucking mistakes. But there are now a bunch of Republicans who are coming on board, and Bernie is going to filibuster everything and stop the U.S. Senate, grind all of it to a halt until this passes. And now Trump is saying, yay, Bernie, and he now feels the burn. Wow. That was not on my, and I know I'm stealing the meme, but that was not on my 2020 bingo card. I did not see that coming. So, that's it. That's what's going on. Welcome to In Time, folks. It's been crazy. Please, if you have enjoyed this rundown and you are now caught up on this crazy week, please like and subscribe. Just take a minute. We're taking a breather. I'm going to get some water. Fox is going to get us all caught up on stuff. Like and subscribe. Also, please hit us up with a super chat if you want to make sure I try to also read what's going on in the live chat. But a super chat is a great way to let us know. And you can also become a patron. We're going to have our patron hangout first Monday of every month, which I think it's this coming Monday. So if you become a patron before then, and we have patrons of all levels, it doesn't matter what level you are. Whatever level you are, you can come in and join us. So you join us at the smallest level, highest level. Come in, join us, hang out. Tell me what a fuck up I am. Tell Vox how awesome she is. Tell Mouty whatever. Tell him that he's people. Mouty is cray cray. So come on in, and we get show ideas from the. It's a lot of fun. I love the patron hangouts. But at any rate, enough shilling. Let's talk. What do you think about all this stuff? I'm gonna get some water. I'll still be able to hear you, but I won't be able to. I'll be too far from the mic. So and I've been watching, and Xandring said a lot of stuff. I'll put some of his stuff on the screen when I get back. But welcome, Xandring. My Bregwin, who gave us a lot of that info, by the way, and Bregwin's been dropping all that in the Discord. Thank you all for coming. Take it away, Vox.
Well, so I think the first thing that I really like to talk about is, of course, dealing with the COVID for a minute, right? And you brought up a point. We have now had several days in which we have had more people die of COVID than died from the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And on December 30th, which was yesterday, we had, roughly speaking, now, of course, these numbers will go possibly up and down as, they are off to do when new information comes in. But tentatively yesterday, 3,808 people died of COVID. Now, about 2 weeks ago, I think, was the first day that we had more than 3,000 deaths. And I saw this thing on Facebook that was comparing it to 9/11, and of course I thought, well, you know what? That's really good, actually. That's a really good analogy. It really brings it to the forefront of why did we react this way to this, and why are we reacting this way to that. So I shared it on my Facebook, and I got a lot of negative reaction. I didn't get a lot of positive reaction, and a lot of what I got back was, how can you compare sovereignty, to, COVID? And I thought about this for a minute, because at first I thought, well, have I misread this analogy? Am I off here? And I thought about it, and I realized, no, I'm not off, right? But they're not off either, but they're wrong for the wrong reasons. They're right for the wrong reasons, right? So you're right. We shouldn't need to be able to compare 9/11 to COVID, because one was completely preventable. One was just a thing that occurs with living organisms, which is that sometimes living organisms and other living organisms don't get along very well, such that COVID doesn't really like, or we don't really like COVID, right? And all we had to do, according to the CDC,
Oh, you are
and the World
breaking
Health
up.
Organization, and the
You broke up there for a sec. You've been breaking up intermittently, just FYI. I'm not quite sure why that is, but you're back.
Bad internet. I've got bad internet. I do apologize if I am breaking up, but just to repeat what I said. One, COVID was entirely preventable, right? For the most part, right? And we know this because this is what the Center for Disease Control has said. This is what the World Health Organization has said. This is what the American Medical Association has said. This is what the American Association of Pediatricians have said. This is what the American Association of Retired People has said. This is what the NAACP has said. This is what the AFL-CIO has said. This is what every single state CDC has said. This is what almost every single country's version of the CDC has said. This is what Nick Lamar-Suda has said, and this is what I say. So we did not need to experience 3,808 people dying the day before New Year's. We did not need a future congressman dying. We did not need any of this, our loved ones passing away. All we had to do was put a piece of cotton on and wear a mask. So no, you're not crazy, Nick. Your rant was right on key, because yes, the people that said that I shouldn't be comparing these things are absolutely right. One was an act of one was a counterattack for decades of mismanaged American foreign policy in the Middle East, where we spent the better part of 20 years murdering millions of innocent people with bombs, and they attacked back. And the other was a disease where the only thing we need to do was put a piece of cotton over our mouth. And that just sums up where America has fallen to. That the people who run around and say America is about freedom and liberty and selflessness and about picking yourself up by your bootstraps and being all these things. Well, we find out no, that the people that spout that the most actually don't think any of that, because what they actually mean by all that is, I am a self-centered, arrogant, uncaring piece of shit, and I don't give a fuck about any of you. I don't even give a fuck about my own mother, because I'm not going to wear a piece of cotton over my mouth because of my freedom. So that's what I've got to think about that.
I do want to quickly,
Yeah.
and if you gotta, please don't forget whatever you. But I want to do. So because you have a background in philosophy, you know what incommensurate goods are, and so it's essentially when you try to measure one thing against another that sort of can't be. And the example I often would give would be like, so if I were to say to you, I'd like to know how tall you are in pounds. You can't measure someone's height in pounds. So or your height in colors. What's your height? How tall are you in the color blue? You can't. But and you can't really measure a human life in money. And yet the problem is you have to. You have to. We're forced to do that. That's what kidnappings do, of course, is they end up forcing you to do that. And because we live in a capitalist society, we are forced to do that. And so when we end up saying you can't, we have this ideal, oh, I can't measure my Nana's life. And that's a great ideal, but then you get forced with this reality that you have to, because I do have to pay for food. And because I have to pay for food and I have to pay for food for my kids, then I'm going to have to measure my Nana's life in money. And so then the question is, when do we go back to work? And at what point do we realize we have to go back to work knowing it's going to cost lives? So it's a balancing act. When do we do that? And there's a law of diminishing returns. We can keep putting more and more money into protecting ourselves, but it's logarithmic. We are not it's exponential. We can keep pouring lots and lots of money, but we're not protecting. But the masks. Let's just talk the masks. And you and I talked about this earlier. We've mentioned it on the show. Which is the masks are the cheapest and easiest. And if the CDC had said if everybody had done the masks when it was first recommended, and President Trump had just mandated it, it would have been cheap, inexpensive. And if that was the only thing, the masks and social distancing, those two things, and we changed nothing else, 90% of the lives lost to date would have been saved. Nothing else. No lockdowns, nothing else. So it's sort of like, we've been arguing about all these other measures, and that's not to say maybe we shouldn't have also instituted other measures. And by the way, there's been opportunities there too, because some businesses, Amazon is taking off. There are ways to, if you're smart about it, and if instead of panicking, you say, where is the opportunity in this? You can find ways to split the difference, but that's neither here nor there. I'm sorry, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. The reality is, you don't have to panic, put everyone in the nuclear bunker, and do every single nuclear option of wrap everyone in a bubble to save everybody's life and completely tank the economy and do all this other. It's not all A or all B. There are things we could have done to have been in such a better position than we are now, and it's hard to imagine that we could have botched this much more than we did. I don't know. Sorry,
Yeah,
I lost
I
my
mean
train of thought.
that's what it comes down to. That's fine. That's what it comes down to, right? It's just this is where we're at. We have I keep talking about the good things that have come out of this pandemic, and people scratch that. What do you mean the good things? There's nothing good. There's always good things, right? There's always bad things. There's always good things, right? And the good things that have come out of this pandemic is that we no longer have to act as though the American illusion is real, right? People just don't care about other people, right? They never did. This idea of our institutions working for us, right? We've just completely ripped that facade off. It's gone, right? Our institutions don't work for us. They oftentimes work against us. Here's a great example of our institutions working against us. So, over the week, over this past week, over 8,000 breweries, microbreweries, these fancy little, beer places, craft beer places, have been hit with upwards of a $14,000 fee for making hand sanitizer for the American public. So when the pandemic first happened, we all know that a lot of people went out and panic bought everything, including hand sanitizer, and so there was a vast shortage of hand sanitizer, and so microbreweries stepped up because what is the primary ingredient in beer? Alcohol, ether alcohol. So what do these people know how to do very well? They know how to make ethyl alcohol very well. And so they said, well, look, let us pitch in, right? War effort, so to speak, right? Good
Yeah,
American
yeah, yeah,
spirit,
yeah,
pitch
yeah.
in where you can. Well, the first thing that the Federal Drug Administration said was,
Dear
well,
fucking
that's great
Christ.
that you want to help, but you have to denature your alcohol first, okay? So that was a huge issue for a lot of these places. But you know what? They bit the bullet, they bit the expense, and they denatured their alcohol. Now, after selling, providing for often at no cost to hospitals or at cost to hospitals, and oftentimes just giving it away for free, millions and millions of gallons of hand sanitizer, these businesses have been hit with a $14,000 fine because they were producing an over the counter medication.
Oh, for
So,
fuck's sake! And of course that's a violation of the but. And you're absolutely going to finish, and since I already interrupted you, I'm not going to do it again. But he's right; that needs to be screenshotted for a whole history of. But we'll get to that later. Please finish, Fox.
yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're pointing to, so
You don't need
it's
to.
fine.
Don't. It's
Um,
insider baseball, and Titans shot at it, and holy smoke! And but he's a quality guy, so he's admitting it. So, but please continue.
yeah, so this is just a great example of exactly what the Republicans talk about, which is overregulation, right? This is a great example of overregulation. But
Yes.
I don't give a crap if the Republicans are right about this because the Republicans don't care about their fellow Americans. So I don't care if they're right, right? Because they're not doing the right thing. So the whole situation is just completely beyond fucked that we are going to. And by the way, $14,000 for a small business is enough to put it in bankruptcy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
A business that has been completely shut down, right? A microbrewery that has been shut down. Who patrons microbreweries? Okay, it's not people like me. I don't patron a microbrewery. It's conservatives, it's men, it's beer drinkers, right? It's army people, right? These are the people that visit these things. They've all been shut down because certain group of people who want to deny. By the way, right? This group of people, right, who is currently, well, you know what? No, I'm not even going to say that. We're just going to move on from that. That would have been really bad. That would have been really mean spirited, right? There is a large group of people that, believe that conspiracy theories are correct. You know what? Fuck it. I'm going to say it. There are a large group of people in this country who do not believe the science behind COVID, will not accept the facts, will tell you it's a pandemic. If they think it's a real thing, it was intentional. Or will tell you it's not that bad. It's not even as bad as the flu. See? These same people think that Donald Trump won the election and that there is a vast conspiracy of voter fraud. So on the one hand, they won't believe that there's a pandemic happening, but they do believe that Donald Trump's election was fraudulent. So take of that what you will. I don't know what to do with these people. I don't know what to do with America anymore. I don't know what to do with these people. I am losing my faith in our institutions. I'm losing my unbridled optimism. When we slap businesses that did what our leaders asked them to do, which is step up, we fine them for doing exactly what they were told to do. We put obstacles in their way for doing what we asked them to do. And we're all too thick to put a piece of cotton over our mouth. Fuck you. Fuck you for killing people. Because the people in Sturgis, right? If right now your social life has been vastly affected because of states having to shut down again, then you are the reason that these places are having to shut down again, and the blood of thousands of Americans is on your hands just as much as it is on Donald Trump's hands and all of his cronies. And I personally would support legislation that says that if a person contacts COVID and dies of it, and that person can be traced, that person's contraction can be traced back to they were following the rules and somebody else wasn't, I completely support legislation charging that person with first-degree premeditated murder.
I think I probably
That's
wouldn't go
where
quite
I'm
as
at.
far as but a manslaughter at a minimum. I think I'd be on board with that. But I share a sense of outrage over it, and I agree that and this actually dovetails a little bit with Isandering Person is a longtime friend of the show and supporter of the show, and he has been with us basically from day one. He and I disagree on a number of issues, but it is a very civil and I think actually a warm disagreement because the disagreement for each of us, I think, is born out of a genuine understanding of that we reach our views very honestly. His views are honest views. He's not trying to impress anyone. He's not trying to. I like to think I genuinely understand why he's got them, and I couldn't. I agree with his perspective. I agree with his perspective, and I get it. And he's come as close as anyone to getting me to. If I was going to flip, it would be for his reasons, really. And I hope if he was going to flip, it would be for my reasons. I hope. And we were going to do a gun debate, and it kept getting pulled up, delayed because he's pro gun, I'm anti, and then we finally did, and I enjoyed it very much. And we've disagreed a lot, but I think we've always disagreed without being disagreeable. In fact, with being able to sort of mock each other and have a sense of humor about it. Anyways, he's sort of, I think, been against a UBI, but he just came out, and what he had done was he just said, get ready to screenshot this. He said, I think in this instance, a UBI would have made more sense than what was done, which I think was something that somebody had said at the beginning, hey, in this one instance, a UBI would have worked. And he had just said earlier, too, that one of the comments that he's always made was he was very much against what a lot of the Republicans were doing when this started, the Trump Republicans, which I think he has argued maybe aren't real Republicans. And what he had argued was, listen, hey, he might be for it for people that he trusted, but the problem is, too, they're not going to be in power forever. And he has always acknowledged that his party isn't always going to be in power. And people, if they're the people that even if they're people he trusts with that power, I think he likes the fact. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I think he likes the fact that power is shared. And it's not always going to be his side in power. And he's in acknowledgement of that. And I put up that he had said that. So. But yes, I did. As soon as he just said, he's like, get ready to screenshot something. So I had my finger on the screenshot button. And as soon as he said, it's like, yeah, UBI would have worked here. It's like, poof. But he does. He is not guaranteed to agree with you. He just isn't. But it's been my experience. He's guaranteed to hear you out, and he's guaranteed to understand a cogent argument. So he will. He'll hear you, and he will understand your argument if it's cogent, and he'll. So I've never seen him not give me a fair hearing. So I've always appreciated that, and we actually were supposed to have him on because of difficulties that I've had, and we've had to postpone shows and move everything across, which most people know what's been going on. We haven't been able. We had to postpone his show. He was going to come on because he is a conservative. I think he's much more a conservative in the vein of John McCain, who had some issues with Trump, and I think we had wanted to. And we did have him on when the Pinochet. We had the show where it was sort of like Trump was just nabbing people off the streets with officers in military uniforms, and it was getting a little scary, and we had him on for that, and he had some views that I thought were very interesting, and with which I concurred. We also don't want to throw him under the bus and have him be the sort of token like, hey, here's a Republican, and where it's, but I think we are all sort of in agreement that power does need to be shared, and that we were all kind of a little worried with what was going on. So we haven't done that show, but he's here now, and we'll hopefully we can talk about where do our institutions go going forward, because I think we all do agree that the institutions are important and that we've had some concerns about those. So, but you remember, Vox, we had talked about doing that show, and we still haven't done it yet. And I'd like to do it before Trump gets out of power.
We've got a lot of things coming in the works, We've got a lot of things coming down the pipeline. I promise there's going to be some good content, right? It's not just going to be me and Nick ranting about things, right? Eventually there'll be some people in here worth listening to.
First of all, she waits till I'm drinking to say that, but thank you. All right, well, anyways, but I also wanted to explain to you what that joke was about the film. Yes, please.
With the $2,000, the filibuster is an interesting tactic here. It looks as though Lindsey Graham has come out and said, I think there should be a standalone vote on $2,000 checks. I also think there should be a standalone vote on the commission and the repeal of Section 230. Now, I have not necessarily looked into Section 230 so much. Having said that, I think that I could get on board with repealing Section 230. I think that these mega corporations being held liable for, at least some way liable for content on their platforms would be a good idea. It would go a long way in checking the spread of see, Donald Trump he's not thinking very far. He's just thinking people say mean things about me, and therefore these protections should be repealed because they're saying mean things about me, so maybe I can sue them for saying mean things about me, right? Now that's not going to work for him, right? But the side effect would be that we could hold possibly these far right terrorist groups plan things when the swatting happens, things of that nature, that we could hold them accountable for not doing enough to prevent the spread of QAnon or Pizzagate or things of that nature. So I actually think I could get on board with that. As to the commission, right? I don't care about the commission. You want to set up a commission to look into vote for? You know what? Do it. Who cares, right? Any commission that helps the integrity of an election, sure, I don't care. Like, it's not going to show any voter fraud, but maybe it shows that mail-in votes are in fact secure. So I'm on board with Mitch, I'm on board with Trump, and I'm on board with Nancy. Right? You want to bring all three of them to a vote? Do it. Vote on them. Right? You want to bring it to a single vote? Do it. I'm on board with it. Right? But this is what I do know. People need money right now. And our institutions are failing us. They're not failing me. They're failing you. Right? The backbone of America, so to speak, the working class people, the labor people, right? our institutions have failed you, and this kind of situation, makes me kind of question, when do we all put politics aside and say, look, we have a problem here, right, that goes beyond blue and red, left and right, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative. We have a problem where our institutions are serving none of us, and that's a problem. And a filibuster can only solve so much. So, as it stands right now, yes, we have 7 Republican senators who have said that they would sign a bill to support the raising of checks to $2,000. And Senator Lindsey Graham seems to be leading the charge. That's not surprising. He is Trump's doughboy, whatever, that doesn't surprise me at all. As to Vice President Mike Pence, it does not surprise me that Mike Pence authored or gave that argument. Mike Pence is a constitutional conservative, right? And again, I agree with you. His positions to me are abhorrent, but he's a constitutional. He's not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So it doesn't surprise me. And it is correct. It will just delay the election, because what will happen is, after this senator objects, a vote will be held in the House and the Senate. And even if the Senate voted to toss the election, the House would not. And so all that would happen is we'd have these 2 votes, and then we would just count the electors that were there and certify the results. I expect a vote in the Senate. I do not expect the vote in the Senate to agree with Trump. I expect that the vast majority of Republicans will vote to support Joe Biden. I think this is the last-ditch effort. The lawsuit has no capacity to go anywhere. The lawsuit will go nowhere. No one needs to be worried about that lawsuit. I've read bits of it. It's a typical suit. And what I mean by a typical suit, it's the quality of this election. I'm not even sure it's being properly filed. So really? We don't need to worry about that. Yeah, there's just language that's used in it. I mean, these people are where did these people get their law degrees from? I do not know. Giuliani used to be like the guy for breaking up organized crime in New York. I mean, he was the guy. I think he's got Alzheimer's. The level of incompetence in his lawsuits over the last 2 months just makes me believe that either he had amazing paralegals and junior attorneys working for him that built him up, or he's just lost his ability to remember most of what he learned, because they're just juvenile lawsuits.
Well, I think
I'm done.
I think he may be senile. To be honest, I think he's reached the point where senility is starting. So I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just I've seen some. I think he's just past his prime. That's all. All right. Well, good. So I think we're sort of on the same page there. And as Andring, we'll catch up. So perfect. Thank you all. Well, so that's where we stand on, I think, the lawsuit. So we've covered the lawsuit. We've covered COVID. Oh my God! Not only are we on time, but we're on schedule now too. This is a remarkable, and it's the new year. This is a heck of a way to end the year. This is insane. So let's see. What else did we cover? So and we do. Well, we're gonna have to do a show on the UBI too, because Maudi's been asking for that.
I will say this. I will say this just as kind of a joke. Just throw this out here, but we do everything bigger and better in Africa, right? And so this new strain of COVID, right? It will have fangs.
Please tell me you did not just do that. Oh dear Lord!
It will have fangs. Lord. I promise you.
Okay, thank you. The In Time Show. I've just received notification from YouTube. We made it all the way up until 9 hours before 2021, before YouTube just in perpetuity just canceled the damn program. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Well, here's what we're gonna do. So I was actually thinking I probably wasn't going to be able to make the Discord. I think I'll be able to make the Discord for a short period of time. So I think we're going to wrap things up unless there was anything else that Vox wanted to hit us with. But Vox, that was a wealth of information. I sincerely appreciate it. I was not as well. I was a little worried about that suit, to be honest. I hadn't looked up into it. So you've given me some, and the only thing that I knew was that because Pence himself had filed against it, that had created, and I don't know the details, but to the best of my understanding, that had created some sort of thing where there'd be an absurdity if the judge actually accepted the suit because the suit was ostensibly to benefit the position of the vice president, but the vice president had filed against the suit, that it somehow would create an absurdity, ergo he wasn't supposed to. I don't know. I didn't understand the argument entirely, and I didn't get a chance to finish it before we aired. But that logically, presumably, the judge at this point was not supposed to really file in favor of, since Pence had argued against. So I don't know if there's any merit to that, but if it looks like it may even have been improperly filed, and I mean, all of these cases, the one that Texas filed, of course, lacked foundation, and that anyone didn't even see that just looking at it. And I'm just like, all of these, and this was I think the second one filed along these lines, trying to overturn. And I'm just like, and they've all been joke cases, so joke filings.
Pretty much, they've all just been nonsense. And mostly what these judges have, done is made sure that they did their level best not to create case law, right? I mean, that's basically what has come out of this, is just judges making sure that they're not making case law. Even the Supreme Court, right? It seems that most of what has been done is just looking at these and just dismissing without comment, because they don't want to say something that could be seen in some way as, okay, well, next time, now we've got this precedent, right? We've got this dissent. And so I think our judicial system has done very well throughout this election, right? In dealing with the myriad of bullshittery that has been sent their way.
Yeah. All right. Well, as Vox had suggested, we've got a number of. We're just actually trying to sort out scheduling, but we have a number of guests that we're looking at. We still have, as we'd started our series on woke culture, and we still have a number of shows planned. It's all scheduling at this point. We've got a lot of stuff that we're looking at, and if you join our Discord, you'll be the first to find out about it. But lots that we're looking forward to in the new year. I hope everyone celebrating tonight stays safe and enjoys their celebrations. We, as I said, this coming Monday is going to be the first patron hangout of the new year, and that's for our patrons. And anybody who just becomes a member on the YouTube channel, it's the same as patron. It's just if you support the show, you come to the patron hangout. So those are people who just join and become members on the YouTube channel or patrons. If you don't want to, don't. Come in and join us on the Patreon. That's free, or just hit like and subscribe if you made it this far. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. Do that. I will be there in like 5 minutes. Hopefully, Vox, you going to join us?
I'll be there.
Perfect. See you all soon. Thank you once again. Please hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you in just a minute.